Super powerful, super pretty, and super expensive is the way I could describe today's gaming PC build. Because in this video, I'm going to be building a top-of-the-range system inside one of my favorite PC cases from last year that's going to tear through all the latest titles at 4K ultra settings. A build that might set your wallet on fire, but should give us the very best when it comes to frame rates, and hopefully is going to be a lot of fun to put together. How many screws does this case need? As always in today's video, I'll be walking you through the parts I've selected and why, including perhaps at some points in the video some cheaper alternatives, and looking at how good this system looks and performs a little bit later. With the main goal, of course, being to have a little bit of fun along the way. Let's do this. The Corsair Frame 5000D is here and brings with it a transformational update to the hugely popular 5000D series. With an integrated RGB strip on the front panel, ventilation on the side PSU shield, support for reverse connector motherboards, and thicker panels in the Frame 4000D deliver even stronger build quality, support for up to 200mm fans at the front, room for 140mm on the side, top and front, and room for up to a 420mm radiator. Learn more at the first link in the description below. Now, the brief for today's build video was clear. Build something that's going to provide incredible performance with some of the best parts on the market. And that's a challenge that I gladly accepted. I'm going to start things off by talking about, as usual, the CPU and GPU combo, because it's here where a build can really fall apart or actually get off to a great start. In terms of the CPU and GPU combo, I've picked the best of the best with the AORUS RTX 5090 and a Ryzen 9 9950X3D. A CPU and GPU combo is all about balance, and if you are considering a top-end card like the RTX 5090, and even to an extent the RTX 5080, you need to make sure you've got a powerful enough CPU. Go too low end on the processor and what you'll actually find is that the processor is too slow for the graphics card and creates what we call a bottleneck. Thankfully, the 9950X3D from AMD has no danger of that at all, with 16 cores, 32 threads, and over 100 megabytes of L3 cache. AMD have really knocked it out the park with their X3D chips, and are of course awaiting the arrival shortly of the 9850X3D, which could potentially provide even more raw gaming performance for a build like this, for those of you who don't need so many cores. You see, the thing is, when you're building a high-end system, previously you would have had to just go for a top-end CPU, but the 9950X3D is actually maybe slightly overkill for this build if all you're doing is gaming. Of course, if you're doing video editing, rendering, streaming, and you just want all the cores and the advantages they give you, this is what I'd go for. But you could swap it out for a 9800X3D and see very minimal performance loss in this build if you were replicating this at home. I want to talk about the specific GPU model I've chosen because I'm slightly nervous about getting it to fit in the case. I think we're going to be all right, but this right here is the GeekaWhat AORUS Master RTX 5090. Now, I actually think if I had to give an award out for the brand with the best white PC components, that award would go to GeekaWhat every day of the week. And I'll be honest, that's actually quite surprising when you consider GeekaWhat haven't always been renowned for like the most aesthetically pleasing component designs. They've always, for me, been really associated with making great quality parts, but never as flashy or glamorous as what you'd find, for example, from the likes of ASUS. I actually think that's a reputation that GeekaWhat's really shifted in the last couple of years, and this is a great example. Look how good it looks. It's a beautiful looking GPU. 3 large fans on the front. The heatsink is silver, not white, so that's maybe an area that could be improved next time around. You've got that absolutely enormous GPU die on the back, which is mental. Nice, look, silver reflective area, bit of two-tone on the back. It's absolutely sensational. Now, this is a triple slot and a bit graphics card, so you are going to need to go for a case that's got that GPU clearance. And yeah, I mean, 5090, what more is it to say? Oh, maybe the fact it's got a screen on it, because yes, everybody wants a graphics card with a screen on it. I mean, if you're spending, in the current climate, nearly $3,000 on a GPU, maybe it makes sense. So that's the CPU and GPU. Shall we just rip the band-aid off and talk about maybe the most expensive component in today's build now, the memory, and be done with it. This right here is the Corsair Dominator Titanium. It is a 32 gig kit. I've not gone stupid with 48 or 64 gigs of memory, and in the current climate, unless you really need it, you shouldn't either. I actually made a video recently talking about whether you even need 32 gigabytes of memory for gaming in 2026. It's become the norm, but is it really required? For this build, yes, the 5090 is going to massively benefit from having 32 gigs of memory, but you'd be surprised on lower end systems with lower end or more mainstream graphics cards that 16 gigs is a suitable stopgap. It doesn't actually have as big of a performance impact as what you might think it does, but you can check that video out in the cards now. To be crystal clear, for this build, please do not put 16 gigs of memory in. The price of the parts in this build probably actually make the memory seem quite reasonable. Anyway, I'll link some good memory kits down below, including this dominated titanium and some suitable white alternatives. For cooling, I've got some new goodies in from NZXT that I was keen to check out actually. The first of those is their new fan range. I've got a single F140 unit, which is 140 millimeters, and then a larger F360X, but there's also a 240X, a 280X. Sadly, I don't think they do a full 20X, which is a shame. Now, what this is an all-in-one fan design, and these are becoming more and more common actually at the moment, I think, where rather than having 3 fans or having them daisy chain, it's just one single unit for everything. You get then one cable to deal with. This is going to run up to our proprietary NZXT controller. And on the fan unit itself, we've got RGB accents and stuff, which is nice. Silver side profiles, which I think looks pretty clever. Rubber grommets to minimize vibration, and build quality that feels very, very solid. So hopefully that's going to look good in the build. I'll be pairing it up with what I think might just be the best looking CPU cooler on the market right now, or at least the best looking cooler with a screen, NZXT's Kraken Elite 360. I think NZXT's screen and software does still put it ahead of a lot of the competition. The coolers are more expensive, which I guess accounts for that, but in my mind, they are worth it. And I think that screen with the RGB and the circular design is just a really, really great implementation. In terms of storage for today's build, I've got a 2TB Samsung 9100 Pro. This is one of my favorite Gen 5 NVMe drives that comes in at a reasonable price point for Gen 5 NVMe and offers insane speeds with nearly 15 gigabytes per second, which is crazy. And that's going to provide us with just an overall great experience. Of course, with a high-end GPU like the 5090, you can actually run into a storage-based bottleneck. The card is that quick. In a build like this, spending good money on storage is actually very important. Let's talk about the motherboard next up. I've stuck with the AORUS theme just to try and get our GPU and motherboard to match. For me in a build, that's really important, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. This is the AORUS Elite Wi-Fi 7 Ice, and yeah, I mean, look at this thing. It's absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. The socket cover on here is the only black thing I can see, and we'll be taking that off. 4 white RAM DIMMs, you've got this really nice silver and white heatsink coverage. The rear I/O is pretty solid too, with white optical and 3.5mm audio ports. We've got, of course, high-speed USB 4. It's just a lovely looking motherboard, and Wi-Fi 7 on board as well, which is going to make a big difference. I think GeekaWhat were one of the first people to do actual white connectors all over the board, even down to the Q-code display. That's white too, which shows, frankly, an amazing attention to detail. I realise I haven't yet covered off the case or the power supply, but I'm going to come back to those and try and start getting the motherboard built up for this build, getting things like the CPU and RAM installed. I was thinking this section could be a bit ASMR, Dan. Okay, so the motherboard is looking good. The next step is the case. Now, this right here is the HAVN BF360 Float, and I've built and reviewed in the black one, but to date, not the white one. Oh, here we go. Now, it might look like a fairly standard ATX tower from the outside, but if we spin it round to the front and then remove this magnetic front panel, you'll see we've got these absolutely enormous and incredibly thick fans at the front, which massively help with airflow. Now, what I don't want to do is lose these fans, because even though they're not very flashy, they're not very RGB, and they're black, kind of wish they were white, they are going to provide immense cooling performance, which is kind of the USP of this case, so they're going to stay in. What I am going to do is actually pop our 360mm radiator at the top, so that's going to go up here, and then the 140mm NZXT fan is going to go at the back, replacing the pre-installed unit to give us a bit more of a wow factor. It's a case, this one, that just feels really incredibly well built. If I can take the top panel off. So well built, in fact, that it comes with shipping screws. Let's take those off first. Taking off the top panel is then going to give me access to the screws for the side panels. Again, I believe these are just shipping screws. I think you can put them back in if you want. I don't think you necessarily have to. And if I pull that panel off, What is going... There's another one. How many screws does this case need? Right, should we try that again? Taking the side panel off, yeah, you can see that will hold. So that's absolutely fine. Taking that panel off gives us clearer access to the inside. There's a few nice touches. We've got these really nice cable grommets that make routing and managing cables really easy with these little pieces that stop the cables from sagging. We've got an integrated GPU support bracket, which we can move up and down. We can angle. I've broken it. You know what? I'm going to strip this case down, then line the motherboard up, and I'll rejoin you in a second, okay? So that's now in place. 9 screws to secure the motherboard down, and you can see it matches the case super well already. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I really want to do the cooler next because I think that the back NZXT fan's looking good. I think the cooler's going to look really nice, but it's not the sensible decision. It's the one that you shouldn't do. It's going to make the build harder. The better thing to do at this stage is this, the power supply. And this is a brand new unit from, I think it's brand new. I mean, it's brand new to me, from Lian Li, which is their SX1200P. It's ATX 3.1, PCIe Gen 5.1, and gives us 1200 watts of power, which is going to be perfect for the build today. And look at that. That is absolutely, as far as power supplies go, that's absolutely gorgeous. Now you can see here along the back, we've got all of our power connectors. So everything from our CPU and old school PCI, motherboard, peripheral SATA, our CPU, and then also our 12 volt 2x6 connector for the GPU. The actual top of the power supply is like angular, which is pretty cool. And it's very, very compact for a 1200 watt unit. So that's pretty nifty. Inside the included very soft bag, that's like a velvet, that's lovely. We have fully braided cables. Look at those. I got some black stuff on my hand from the case, so I'm gonna go and clean those before potentially trashing what are some of the nicest looking power supply cables I've ever seen. They are absolutely gorgeous. Now then, the CPU cooler is going to be next. Now, I talked earlier about the fans for this, and as mentioned, I'm going to add in NZXT's new 360mm fan block and see how this looks compared to what you get included. I love how white and powder coated the radiator is. That screen module is absolutely massive. The tubes are nice. The only thing I don't love is just this massive connector block. I feel like this could probably be streamlined a little bit and made a bit smaller, but it's a minor complaint. In terms of where it's going to go in the case, we're going to go for this kind of orientation just here. But before I do that, I'm going to pop the fans onto the bottom of the radiator with, of course, just the 4 screws in this case because of the nature of this frame. Next step, graphics card. Now, if I hover the GPU into place, we can see, yes, it's gonna fit. The only problem is our GPU support bracket. Now, it's kind of trapped there by the USB 3 cable. So what I think I might do is pull the USB 3 cable out, maybe remove that entirely, push the GPU bracket down, reinstall the USB 3 cable, then line the graphics card up and see if it will go in this time. It will. The only problem is I'm not sure the GPU bracket's really gonna fit. Let's get the graphics card in and figure out that bit a little bit later. Now, we're gonna be using the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th PCI slots in today's build to get the GPU into place. Cool, so the graphics card is then gonna slide in without too many problems. Clicked into place. Oh, that looks good. I mean, it looks big, probably because it is big, but I actually think it looks quite nice. I think it works. Now, while I install the GPU, I have got a question for you guys. Some of you guys will know, probably because I talk about it all the time, that I own a UK PC building company called GeekaPC. Do you want to see this on the site? Is this too expensive? Would you buy it? Or would you go, nah, James, that's a bit flashy. No one spends 5 grand on a computer. Probably be more than 5 grand. But let me know in the comments. GPU power cable is next. Have we got a nice little area to run this through? Yes. Get that connected up. Now the GPU bracket. Can we get that to go in? Maybe we can, actually. Yes, looking good. Give me a moment to wire this system up, and then let's boot it up and see how good it looks. Okay, so I think we're all wired up. Fingers crossed I've got this correct. Power button, that's a good start. The fans look good. The cooler's lit up. They are spinning quite loud to begin with, but I'm sure they'll calm down. Big fans at the front are on. Yeah, that looks pretty good, and I like that RAM too. I'm gonna get this into Windows, get all the RGB configured, and rejoin you in a few moments to see how this thing performs. I think, spoiler alert, probably gonna perform pretty well. through to the gaming benchmarks, and it's time to see if this build performs just as good as it looks. And I'm happy to report the answer is yes. Now I'm going to start off with the only game I tested at 1080p, mainly for fun more than anything else, which was Fortnite. Everything else was tested on the 4K high, ultra high preset. Fortnite at 1080p competitive, that's with pretty much everything tuned down to low except the render distance, which is set to far, pulled in over 330 FPS, which is frankly insane. Tuning up to a more realistic 4K resolution, and the results stay really good. Marvel's Rivals, for example, at 4K on the high settings preset, delivers just shy of 160 frames per second. Move through into Cyberpunk 2077, an older game but still a great test on any system, and here the build pulls in an average of 147.8 frames per second. I mean, we can basically call it 148 at this point. Move through into Arc Raiders next up, and frame rates here were once again very good at that 4K high settings preset, perhaps one of the newest and more demanding games on the list today. Here the frame rate averaged over 180 FPS with 184 to be precise. Move through into the brand new Battlefield 6, and here at 4K high settings, once again the results were great, and although this is an FPS game, I think it really benefits from the high visuals at 4K. It's really a stunning title. Average frame rates were just shy of 130 frames per second at that 4K high settings preset. Finally, in F1 2025, bit of a racing sim title, personal favourite of mine, 4K ultra high here delivers a really strong 235 frames per second, and that was tested, as I say, on the ultra high preset using the game's inbuilt benchmarking mode. As always, you can find links to all the parts mentioned today down in the description below if you want to give your wallet a fright, and if you did enjoy today's build, get subscribed to see more from me. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.